Well, welcome back to Life on Cars. Hope you're all well. Well, today it's spanner time. We have a job to do on the Jaguar XK that I've been putting off for a couple of months. Basically, I've started to hear what sounds to me like the start of wheel bearing noise from the rear of the car. And it's one of them where my mechanic's ear has been picking it up the last few trips that I've been doing in the vehicle. And I can tell it's coming from the back, but I'm really having problems distinguishing which side it is. So I think for peace of mind, what I'm going to do is change both rear wheel bearings. And I would imagine that it should be a job that's straightforward enough to be done with the tools that I have here in the garage. And obviously I'm going to film it for you guys. So we'll film the whole procedure doing one side of the vehicle. We'll do it in two stages, so we'll do a video for removal and then a video for refitting so it doesn't get too long. So let's get on with it. Hope you enjoy it, and it's time to get cracking. Just before I forget, what actually is wheel bearing noise then? So it's like a humming noise that kind of gets louder with the faster that the wheels rotate. And one of the ways that you can diagnose that is you can jack the vehicle up, spin the wheel, and if you hear a sort of a growling noise or a roughness in the bearing, then that normally indicates that that's the wheel bearing that's at fault. Now, I've already done that on the front of the car, and I can tell that those wheel bearings are fine. But it's quite difficult to do that on the Jaguar XK at the back because it's rear wheel drive. Even when you put it in neutral, you've got the drive shafts and the diff that spins, so you don't get much of a spin on the wheel. And so the spin the wheel technique doesn't really work very well on the back of the car. So then you can do the road testing, you can try and gently move the car from side to side and see if it gets louder. But I've tried all that, and all I can decide is that I definitely have the start of wheel bearing noise at the back, but I just can't tell which side it is, unfortunately. So like I say, it'll be a case of doing both bearings, and then fingers crossed that will cure the noise that I'm getting on the car. It's a keeper, this car, anyway, so it's worth doing for the long term, and it's another job that's ticked off. Those bearings will be the original bearings, so yeah, I think it's worth doing. Alright, so we've got the vehicle jacked and supported. If you're wondering where to support and jack the Jaguar XK, there is a video in the playlist if that interests you. So anyway, the first thing that we're going to have to tackle on this wheel bearing job is the drive shaft hub nut, which is this big fella here, and it's a 36mm socket, so you'll need quite a big socket for this. You'll need strong equipment as well, because it's tight. You are going to need a decent power bar or breaker bar. Now, the other thing with this nut is, because it's so tight and I'm on my own here, that is going to drop down like that under its own weight, and I don't really want that to happen, because if that's not on straight, there's a chance it could round off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually stick a axle stand underneath the the power bar like that and the extension. And what that'll do is it will keep the socket and the bar straight while I put some torque on this bar. So wish me luck, and we'll see if we can get this cracked off. Alright, I've had a couple of practice levers on that and it is extremely tight. I think the torque setting on the hub nut is something crazy, like 300 Newton meters. But what I am going to do is, I do have a length of scaffolding tube, so I'm going to put that on the bar and that will give me a lot more leverage, so hopefully that will break off. If you're wondering why the door's open, it's because I don't want to risk scratching the door. Worst case scenario, if this goes wrong and I slip, I might catch the sill, but I won't catch the door. Yes, it's gone. If you're wondering how I stopped that from turning the hub, I actually had the handbrake on and I had it in park, and that seemed to be enough to hold it. I'm keeping everything crossed on this job because some of these bolts have probably never been out since it was a car. So that'll be a tricky thing to push out as well when I come to push the drive shaft out. I may need to try and find a special tool for that. Borrow one from a friend because it could be quite tight on the splines. So I'm going to get the caliper out of the way next. I'm going to take the whole thing off as a unit and then I'll be able to just secure it out of the way up there somewhere. Now to do that, there are a couple of bolts down the back. This bolt here, and then there's one underneath it. So this one and that one down there next to come off. 15mm, I think. Right, that's the two caliper bolts out. So I should be able to extract this caliper off the disc. Now what I'm probably going to have to do is squeeze the piston back a little bit just to move the pads, otherwise it'll not get past the lip on the disc. Alright, that's the caliper off and secured up out of the way. The eagle-eyed amongst you will notice that I did have to separate the caliper from the pad carrier, so you can see the pads and carrier there. I'll show you how that goes back together when we build it back up. I wanted to slide the whole thing off as one, but the pads wouldn't slide past the edge on the disc, so I didn't want to drag them across, otherwise that would have damaged them. So anyway, now that's off and out of the way and secured, the disc will come off. I just popped a wheel nut on there just to stop it flapping around while I was removing the caliper. So I'm going to take this off and set it to one side. Alright, now the next thing I'm going to probably release is this tie rod. because basically what's going to have to happen here is the hub will need to come right off the car, leaving the drive shaft in. That's the plan. So the drive shaft will stay on the car. Once we've released the hub, then we should be able to use a tool or give that a gentle tap, we'll see, and then that should come through, and then we'll take the whole hub off the car, and then we can get to the wheel bearing and get the wheel bearing out after that. So the one that's probably going to be the toughest one to get off is I will need to release the ball joint from the top wishbone, but the bottom wishbone is bolted in, so fingers crossed that'll come out. This is a bolt, and the other thing is the ABS sensor, which is behind here, so we need to get in and take that off. So let's carry on then. So I'm going to take this off now, this tie rod ball joint. 15mm that on the bottom. The whole thing's spinning, so we'll have to put a spanner on the top. It should come off alright, this, because it has had a new, it's a 14 on the top, I think, is it? What the hell? Must be a 13. Yeah, it has had a pair of tie rod ends on it. So I'm expecting this bolt to come out very easily. They still look brand new, so they must have gone on for, well, not the last MOT, because that was my, yeah, it's come straight off, that look. The bolt's in remarkably good condition, isn't it? Yeah, it must have been the MOT before, so we can just swing that out of the way and leave it like that. I really hope this ABS sensor comes out okay, because they are prone to getting stuck in, and then because they're made out of plastic, they're a bugger to get out. You can see there I've put a bit of penetrating oil on the bolt, and hopefully the bolt's going to come out, because that would be the best start. It's cracked off. Now, if you watch my videos, I've told you before, if you've got a small bolt like this, wind it in and out, because it cleans the threads. That doesn't feel too bad, actually. I think I'm going to go for full removal now. Oh, that's the bolt out. Stage 1. Oh, the sensor's loose, good. That's a good sign. The sensor's loose. Ah, yes. It's come out. Fantastic. I just wanted to show you this if you're wondering what this tie rod does. So you can see there's an adjustment there, because this controls the toe for the rear wheel. So now that that's off there, you can see that this will actually swivel. So this component here is to set your toe angle for the rear wheel. Right, I'm just having a little tickle on this top wishbone nut. It's a 19mm. I sprayed it with WD. It has cracked off, but you can see what's happening there. It is moving the whole ball joint, which means that it won't wind off. So we've got a couple of choices here. We can try to get something on the end of there, because that's a square shape, so we might be able to put a small spanner on there to stop the ball joint moving while we wind the nut off. Or we may end up having to put the jack underneath the bottom arm and put some upward pressure on the bottom arm there so that it puts some pressure on this ball joint to stop it from spinning. It's kind of good news and bad news. The bad news, obviously, it's spinning on me, but the good news is if the whole thing's spinning, then hopefully this, once I do get the nut off, this won't be frozen into the hub. So let me give this some thought. Alright, so the jacking up method didn't work, but I have discovered that an 8mm spanner fits on the bottom of the ball joint. You can see that one to the right, and then you can see my 18mm spanner, open-ended spanner on the nut, and that's it's tight, but it's winding off. It's because that nut on that top ball joint there will be a nylock, and that means it's got a nylon insert in it that makes it lock on, and it's getting tight. But I'll show you the progress I've made so far. Can you see that? It's come right down. But you can see the problem now. I'm going to start running out of stud in a minute to have the spanner on at the bottom. So I'm just hoping the nylock starts to free off before we get to that point. So I'll carry on a bit. You can see there the ball joint's nice and loose as well. So once I get that nut off, there'll be no problem getting that top arm out. Well guys, the old spanner on the bottom got us to a point where we've been able to get that off. So yeah, I put a little 8mm spanner on the bottom of there. You can see it's like a hex, and that's come off. You don't worry about all this crap that's on here. It's just because I've been going mad with the WD-40. I'll clean all that off. But yeah, that's the top ball joint nut off, so that's a relief. So we should now be able to pull that out. Yes, like that, look. And there we are. So what's left now? So I've got to tackle this fella, which is a big long bolt that goes through the bottom arm, and then we're ready to press the drive shaft in over and bring the whole lot out. Tell you what, they're well engineered. These are lovely aluminium hubs. Obviously these are aluminium as well. Yeah, lot nicer than cast iron hubs, steel hubs. Alright, it's time to tackle this bottom bolt now, which I think is an 18 on this side and 21 on the other side, which seems to be loosening off fine. That's no problem at all, that one. Straight out. Tell you what, these bolts are in remarkable condition for the age of the car. So now the only thing that's stopping this coming off is the drive shaft splines, and the whole thing should come out. I've just put the nut back on there just to stop me catching the threads. I don't think I'm going to need my friend's special tool because it's knocking through without any problems. So it's going to come off this just as we planned. It's pretty much nearly up there, guys. Slack us out. It's just going to come off this now. Just got all the back of the drive shaft because I don't want to pull the drive shaft out the diff. There's a little tap on there, I think. Nearly there. It just doesn't want to come unless I give it a little tap. Okay. There we are, guys. She's off. So you know I said at the start of the video that it was difficult to spin the bearing and listen to it because of it being connected to the drive shaft and the brake was on and everything. So now it's off. I can actually spin it. Now I have heard a lot worse, but there is definitely some noise coming from the bearing. I don't know if you can pick that up on the camera, but I'll just spin this. And you'll hear there's like a bit of a grinding noise. Hear that roughness, that. So there's definitely something going on that one. But it might be that the other side's worse, but it's just almost impossible to diagnose between the two, unfortunately, when it was on the car. So, I mean, they're both the same age. They'll be the original bearings. So, I've got two ordered. So what we need to do now is take these 4 bolts out, because this design is where the bearing and the disc carrier with the studs and everything all comes as one. So the whole thing unbolts from the actual hub. So we just need to take those 4 out now and then see if we can separate it. 13mm those. So stand the hub up like this and wire them out. Alright, that's them out. So now hopefully the hub and everything will just tap out. This is a tad bit crude, but basically I've got the hub supported on 3 axle stands and I'm going to give it a whack. I don't think it'll be held in with too much pressure. It's Probably just a bit of corrosion that's holding the hub in place. So let's see what happens. Here we go. That's it. It's out. And there's our bearing assembly. So, clean up job now. I'm going to give all this hub a clean up. Obviously get rid of all this corrosion on the inside of the flange there where the new bearing's going to go. And also I'll be cleaning up the drive shaft as well on the car. Well, I can get to it. I'm going to clean all this rust off, give the teeth a bit of a file up for the ABS ring, get rid of some of that rust, and yeah, just have a general tidy up, and then it'll be time for the new bearing. Well, that's as far as we can go today. Hope you enjoyed the episode. I've got the wheel bearings on order, so they should be here very soon. Hope you liked the video, and please join me again for part 2 when we get this side put back together. If you're new to the channel, give me a like and subscribe, that would be fantastic. And stay safe, and we'll see you very soon again on Life on Cars. Bye bye now.